I was wrong about the carnivore diet. So back in 2014, I think it was 2014, either 2014 or 2015, I talked to Andrew Scarborough. Andrew Scarborough was dealing with the after effects of a really serious brain tumor. And Andrew used a zero carbohydrate diet as an adjunct therapy for his cancer treatment. So we all know that a ketogenic diet originated as a treatment for epilepsy for children. Obviously, this wasn't the first use of ketosis ever. People were fasting, using dry fasting and water fasting to stop seizures for thousands of years. But the ketogenic diet was named in the 20s as a treatment for refractory epilepsy. Epilepsy that was not treatable with drugs. And many children were helped dramatically by this. Now, Andrew Scarborough ended up finding that a standard ketogenic diet wasn't enough as a therapy for him. He ended up finding that he was highly sensitive to lectins, salicylates, histamines, oxalate, to plant toxins. But they're in the plants to protect them from predators who might consume them. Right? Plants don't want to be eaten just like humans and animals don't want to be eaten. And they have defenses to protect them from certain organisms consuming them just like other animals do. Andrew found that these compounds in the plants would aggravate his neurochemistry. He ended up finding that the way that he could completely remit his symptoms, his epileptic fits, and keep stable neurology was through using a zero-carb diet. Andrew was eating foods like liver, like heart, like brain. I think he was really into like lamb's brain. He was using cricket flour. He was one of the first people, I think I ever met that was really into eating insects. At the time, he was making cricket bread. I'm not sure if he's still making the cricket bread, but he's still alive with a supposedly incurable cancer. And it hasn't come back, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know. I'm gonna have to get Andrew back on and talk to him again. But he was the first person that I met personally that was doing an all-meat diet. I had heard about Owsley. They called him the bear on some of these forums. He was a countercultural figure from the 60s. Very, very influential figure who actually used a zero carbohydrate all-meat diet as well. But my opinion back then, many people asked me at the time, right? This was 4 or 5 years ago when we first started putting out content teaching people how to do a ketogenic diet. The question would come up very often. Well, if low carb is good, then no carb must be better. And back then I would often give the answer that that is a fallacy. That just because low carb is good doesn't mean no carb is better. Right? A lot of us think, all right, well, exercise feels good. How about constant intense exercise? Obviously there's a dose response curve, right? With most things, there seems to be a bell curve where you'll get a response that is either positive or negative on the outlying extremes and a beneficial response somewhere in the middle. Things like exercise, the supposed hormetic response to plant toxins, which this is debatable, and this is something that needs to get fleshed out and studied more. With a lot of these things, there seems to be the dose makes the toxin kind of thing. I was of the opinion back then that restricting carbohydrates completely and pulling them out of the diet would be kind of silly for most people to do. And I couldn't imagine myself doing it at the time, right? I love avocado, right? I digest avocado just fine. I digest foods like spinach just fine. But what I have come to realize after years of doing a low carbohydrate diet, after years of just figuring out how my body functions best, after years of simplifying the process for me, after working with hundreds, with actually now thousands of clients, both privately and then our group coaching consultations and our keto, and now we had to add the name Carnivore Collective, the Keto and Carnivore Collective, which is our group coaching course that we do online every month, sometimes every other month. In fact, the next session is starting tomorrow, which this video probably won't be out But the November session is starting now. Sometimes late signups are fine. If you're interested in the Keto and Carnivore Collective, you can check the link in the description. But after working with so many people, what I've realized is that many people, including myself, end up naturally gravitating towards a carnivorous diet after refining their low carbohydrate diet. What I have found is that contrary to my former belief, which I stated many times, contrary to my former belief that it's probably not best to cut out all plants from the diet, I found that my body functions better on like essentially a zero carb diet. I find that if I'm gonna make food, I couldn't give two shits to spend 2 hours preparing some special cauliflower dish, some multi-leveled, multi-layered vegetable plate. I would far rather just throw a steak on and get a nice steak with some butter or something than spend my time making the vegetables. And I don't feel any detrimental effects to the lack of vegetables. Anybody who's been watching the channel has seen for about the past year and a half, my diet has been primarily carnivorous. Now, I'm not dogmatic about it. I still love foods like cacao. I still really like avocado, even though I don't think I've had an avocado in at least 8 months. Right? I love 100% raw chocolate. We live in Ecuador. I've been a kind of a chocolate connoisseur over the last decade since moving here. I actually used to work in the export of these organic foods like cacao, so I really do enjoy it if it's quality. But I just don't find myself eating these foods anymore. I don't find myself craving them. I don't find myself desiring them. And when I am hungry, I'm so much more satiated from just animal fats and proteins. Of course, I'm not just eating ribeyes, right? Although there are people out there that are just eating ribeyes bought from the store, not even concerned with grass-fed or with the quality of the meat, and they're doing just fine. So I can't sit here and say, well, you've got to do all grass-fed to be healthy. You've got to do this just like me. You got to do that just like me. There's many different ways to go about this. Just like I've said for years, there are many different ways to do an effective ketogenic diet. And what I've had to reconcile over the last couple years is I've had to admit to myself that I just don't feel any worse when I pull the plants out. In fact, without plant foods, I seem to digest better, recover better, have more mental clarity, be more productive, and I just feel better in general. Mentally and emotionally, it's been a funny ride, like having to admit to myself that the animal foods are the most beneficial foods and that these plant foods probably aren't as beneficial as these so-called authorities have been telling us. Right? So like watching the debate with Chris Kresser, who, you know, got a lot of respect for Mr. Kresser. He does a really good job with a lot of the work that he does. But the debate with Kresser and Joel Kahn, where in the end of it, they both agreed that vegetables are so dang important and we need those vegetables. Right? And Joe Rogan, watching him desperately cling on emotionally to the idea, you need the vegetables, these people are crazy, they're not eating vegetables, it's so bad, it's so scary. I felt that way too when I first started a ketogenic diet. When I started making bone broth, I mean, after coming from a very, very low animal food diet for a long time, and before that, doing like a vegan diet, which wrecked my health and my wife's health, and which actually detrimentally affected our children's dental health and teeth, which she actually just lost 2 of her baby teeth, her little baby nubs, and her adult teeth that are coming in are perfectly strong, healthy, well-formed teeth, whereas when she first broke her baby teeth through the gums, she had massive dental caries, right? They were dissolving. It was like chalk, like they were coming off like powder, and it broke our hearts. And that's what actually got us into looking at the importance of high-fat nutrition, was seeing our daughter's teeth suffer, right? So my progression with this wasn't just, oh, I was a vegan, and now I hate vegans, and now I only eat meat, right? As some of these people online try to make it out of scene. I've been off of a vegan diet for 7 years now. I left my vegan diet in 2011. I got into a ketogenic diet in 2013. And there have been many little steps along the way, right? I mean, discovering Weston A. Price's work back in 2012, 2011, in 2013 is when we discovered Weston Price's work, because it was right when our daughter's teeth started erupting. But anyways, I mean, having discovered these things, the importance of fat-soluble vitamins, the nutrition that we were missing on a vegan diet, thinking that we were eating healthy, thinking that animal products were bad, that they probably cause heart disease and all this stuff. I mean, it's been a long process of having to deprogram and having to learn new what it is to really nourish the human body. And I would have never thought that I'd be sitting here today saying that I enjoy eating a diet that is based all around animal foods and that has no plants in it at all. Shoot, when I was 15 years old, I would have never thought I'd stop eating sugar and bread and cake and burritos. I would have never thought that. But here I am today, having to admit that the vegetables aren't necessary for health. Now, this is something that needs to be explored further. I'm not saying everybody should do a ketogenic diet or everybody should do a carnivorous ketogenic diet like I do. But what I'm saying is, we need to be more open-minded. We need to look at this stuff not through vegetable-colored glasses. We need to look at this stuff through our own eyes and experience how our body functions on different nutritional substrates, on different fuel substrates, fat versus carbohydrate. And we need to figure it out for ourselves, what works best for us. So a lot of people are really concerned with the long-term negative effects of not eating plants. And I think it's funny, because so many people are concerned with the long-term negative effects of not eating plants, when there are so many people thriving on a plant-free diet, and there have been many civilizations that have lived very healthily, like the Plains Indians following around the buffalo, like populations of Inuit. Some populations of Inuit living exclusively off caribou. Some populations of Inuit living almost exclusively off salmon. All populations of Inuit, before being introduced to Western diets, having healthy teeth and healthy, strong bodies. Now, say what you will about their cultural practices, say what you will about other aspects of Inuit culture. But it's undeniable that before the foods of commerce of Weston Price called it in his really, really important book, very, very important volume on both nutrition as well as anthropology. One of the most important works of anthropology and nutritional anthropology of the 20th century, his book, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, as well as many other explorers like Stephenson, noting that the Inuit, living off an exclusively meat diet, had no signs of scurvy, had no issues with health, and were incredibly happy, healthy people. Stephenson and Anderson were studied after Stephenson's claims were lambasted in the media when he said that I ate all meat diet for many years living with the Inuit and I felt better than ever. Modern science didn't believe him. The nutritionist, the dietitian said, there is no freaking way that you didn't eat plants, you didn't get scurvy. He was in a metabolic ward in a hospital with this guy Anderson. They went for a whole year eating nothing but meat. They weren't concerned with feeding organs. They weren't concerned with only eating from the entire animal. They were just eating meat for a year. And Stephenson actually made the claim in several interviews that it wasn't even necessary to eat organs. Now, I prefer to eat organ meats, right? Foods like liver, like heart, kidney. I'm really a big fan of marrow. Bone marrow is just so amazing. I love me a nice shank, right? But marrow is really good raw. Like a nice shank is great. It's it's a cut from the leg where you've got meat and you've got that marrow bone right in the middle, and all that fat melts from the marrow, and it just tastes amazing. But shoot, I really love eating marrow raw. And this is why we included a whole section of organ meats in our book, The Ketogenic Edge Cookbook. All right, the Ketogenic Edge Cookbook, we put a whole section on how to prepare the most nutrient-dense parts of the animal, the organs. So we teach you how to make liver, how to make heart, even how to use brain, how to make broth. So I'm a big fan of these foods, but many people do well without them. And even Stephenson himself said that the organs aren't necessary. This is a peculiar dogma that people have come up with that he didn't necessarily agree with. Now, of course, in his book, he does mention many times that the Inuit preferred the organs of several animals. Many of the animals' organs were highly prized, whereas some of the organs of other animals, like polar bears, they wouldn't eat. And they loved the marrow, and they would always go for the fatty cuts of meat. But there are people that are just eating ribeyes for 20 years, like the Anderson family, right? And they had to pull down a blog post because they were getting death threats and attacks, violent vitriol from the hateful vegans online. But this family's been eating nothing but ribeyes, and they're not concerned with grass-fed, and they're still doing fine. Now, of course, I prefer grass-fed beef, not just because of the taste and the flavor, but because of the environmental issues. You know, I live in Ecuador. I don't want these feedlot, Monsanto, Cargill grain crap, this consolidated food system coming here. I live in a place where people have got cows roaming freely. We've got 10 cows on our land. They just cruise around, they eat the grass. There's no reason to give them grain ever. So I don't want this grain-fed system coming here, but I can't argue against people, real human beings, getting results in reversing like chronic Lyme's disease, like Charlene Anderson, using an all-meat diet that's not even based on grass-fed. So anyways, I was wrong about a carnivore diet. It's not unnecessarily restrictive. And it's not pointless for most people. In fact, even a lot of people that I know who do not have autoimmune conditions. And this is what one of the major straw mans you see a lot online is people say, oh, well, everybody doing carnivore, they just got a messed up gut and an autoimmune condition. I can eat plants. I just don't care to. I could eat the Soylent slop, probably be all right. I just prefer eating meat, right? I could handle loads of vegetables. But why am I going to spend my time, energy, and money making them when I can eat bone marrow and steak? So anyways, lots to think about. Question your dogma. Admit when you're wrong. And understand that there's a lot more to the picture than plants good, meat bad. Right? We've got to go beyond this. So I'm so happy that there's so many people out there promoting a carnivore diet now. I'm so happy that it's becoming a little bit more explored in the ketogenic world. And I'm happy that more people are coming out and talking about their experiences, and especially people that don't have to do it. Right? I know so many people doing a ketogenic diet who transferred to a more carnivorous diet and didn't necessarily need to do it, but felt way better. And one of the problems with keto advocates nowadays, they don't really have a big grasp and understanding that a lot of these plant toxins can be a big issue for some people. That spinach isn't this amazing superfood. It's actually one of the highest oxalate foods in the world. Phil Escott, drinking his spinach smoothies every day, had some of the most painful, horrible kidney stones that you can imagine from this. And he thought he was doing himself good on his vegetarian and vegan diet. He was being enlightened, drinking kale, spinach smoothies all the time, loading his body up with oxalates, which your body will store in old injury sites, in certain organs. And it can have negative detrimental effects on digestion as well. So the plants aren't always inherently good. Now, of course, I'm not saying that all plants are bad or that everybody needs to go towards a carnivorous diet. I'm just saying we've got to be more open-minded about these things and understand that people do things for different reasons than we may assume. I'm not doing a carnivore diet because I need to. This was just the natural progression of my taste, of my preference, and me listening to my body and experiencing better function, improved performance, and improved health from just dropping the dogma about the plants. So question your assumptions, guys. Just because someone online says it is so, doesn't mean it is so. And just because most people presume that vegetables are good for your health, doesn't make it true. People presume all sorts of things that are total and utter nonsensical bullshit. And just because a majority of people believe something is right doesn't make it true. Might doesn't make right. Right makes might. So you're way more than what you eat. You can find more at primaledgehealth.com. If you're interested in the Keto and Carnivore Collective for this month, you might be able to sign up. It's going to be the last chance. I think we're actually going to be starting the November session by the time this video airs. But we'll probably do a December session. We'll see what's up. If you're interested in learning how to actually prepare nutrient-dense keto food, check out in the link down below the Ketogenic Edge Cookbook, a training manual for low-carb, ketogenic, and paleo cuisine. Jessica's working her butt off right now on her next book, which I actually wrote a few passages for. I might just be able to get an author credit on this book as well. I might be able to sneakily get my name on this book as well. She's working her freaking butt off on, but it's the Carnivore's Cookbook. For people who really love animals. So that's going to be fun. If you're interested in private coaching consultations, I will be doing those, but I do recommend, rather than private coaching, to definitely consider the Keto and Carnivore Collective, because you get more one-on-one time and you get the community support aspect, which is really helpful. So you're way more than what you eat. Question your assumptions, question your dogma. Get off the social media, turn off your freaking computer, get off your damn iPhone, smash your television set, kill your Facebook account, and live your life.